Hello and welcome to this quick video going through quadratic equations and quadratic graphs. Now, a quadratic graph is a graph that is based off of a quadratic equation. The first thing to understand about quadratic graphs and quadratic equations is that they follow real-life principles. They're used a lot in sciences and physics-based problems because they follow gravity and they follow the flow of energy and force. For example, as you can see in the photo here, a ball that is thrown will follow this graph. It will follow a quadratic graph. It goes up to a point, and then it goes up to a point, and then due to gravity, it comes back down, and it comes back down following that green line. A quadratic graph is what you see on the right here. It's a curved arch with a single minimum or maximum point. So as you can see circled there in red is our maximum point. All right. If this graph was flipped, then that red mark could be down here, and that would be the minimum point. The quadratic equation is this down here, this general formula, which is ax squared plus bx plus c. And these a, b, and c letters here will usually have another number in their place. But that is the formula for a quadratic equation, and it creates a quadratic graph. Two things to note about quadratic graphs. A positive graph has a minimum point, and a positive graph travels up in the positive x-axis. So looking at this x line here, the positive graph will travel up. A negative graph is on the right here. It has a maximum point, and the negative graph actually travels down on this positive x-axis. So looking at the x-axis, the positive graph travels up, the negative graph travels down. So that's the difference between a positive and a negative quadratic equation or quadratic graph. To solve a quadratic equation or to solve a quadratic graph, often questions will ask you to solve one, and when it wants you to solve one, it wants you to tell or to find out what points on this graph does it intersect the x-axis. What points does it intersect the x-axis? As you can see here, it intersects it here at -1, and it intersects it here somewhere between 1/2 and 1, so maybe 0.7, all right? So there's two intersection points here on this particular quadratic graph. So if it asks you to solve, it is to find the points at which the line intersects the x-axis. Quadratic equations will either have two solutions, two x-axes, like we saw in this slide. It might only have one, like you can see in this green circle up the top right. Might only touch it once, comes down, touches the x-axis and goes back up again. Or it might have zero. And for that, your answer would be 0 solutions or no x-axes, something like x-intercepts. Something like that, that would be your answer. This graph here in blue comes down, has a minimum, goes up again, but during that whole graph, it does not touch this x-axis. So there are 0 x-intercepts. Using Desmos, we can easily solve quadratic equations. We can type the equation in on the left here, so you can see I've got -2x squared plus 5x plus 1. And when we graph that on Desmos, you can see these 2 points here that I've highlighted in red, and that will tell you what values they are. So you see -0.18 and 2.68. So they are our two solutions for this equation. Some other ones here, like this one, says 2x squared, take 5x plus 4. If you look at this graph, you see it comes down, there's the minimum, goes back up again, but it does not hit this x-axis at all, which means there are no solutions to this, this equation. There are no x-intercepts. Play around on Desmos. Replace these with whatever positive or negative numbers you would like and see what you come up with. Notice as well that there is a negative in front of this, which means that it is a negative because it goes down. Once again, you can see that this from our minimum, from our maximum, it goes down, and so it goes down here. This one here, there is no negative at the front, there is a positive at the front. And so this one from our minimum goes up, just like this, positive from our minimum goes up.